Hello and welcome back to another Blender tutorial. If you clicked on this video, you are probably interested in learning keyframing basics. Let me tell you, you came to the right place, probably. And if you don't know what keyframes are, here's a basic rundown. Keyframes are an easier way to animate. So let's say, for example, instead of moving your object frame by frame, which you can still do, you can move things much less and still get a smooth result. Essentially, you draw two endpoints of an animation, and the computer will fill in the frames in between for you, resulting in a clean animation that took you 2 seconds instead of 2 hours. Anyways, today we are going to go through transform or movement keyframes. This just means we will be focusing on how to use keyframes to animate movement, so things like rotation, location, even scale. Those are the three main things we'll be focusing on. So today I will not go through how to use keyframes to animate things such as like textures, environments, or anything else, just movement. Anyways, enough talk, let's get right into Blender. So as you can see, I am in Blender 3.22, and at the time of this recording, that is the newest Blender version. But I'm sure this tutorial would work for any Blender version, newer ones or even older ones. So at the bottom of your screen, you will see a timeline. This is what we'll be working with. I'm just going to drag this up a little bit so you can see it a little better. We'll see the keyframes appear on this. So you'll just see visual little yellow things pop up. Those will be the keyframes. So I'll just create one real quick to provide an example. Okay, so here I just made some really basic keyframes. You can see over here this is moved, this is all moved. So on frame 0 I basically just rotated this randomly, made it like this, and you can see when I click on this object, these are the two keyframes. I inserted one on frame 0 where I rotated it, inserted my scale, my rotation, location, everything you can see over here. And on the right, frame 50, I did the same thing. So then, you can press play, and this is what it looks like. I didn't actually animate any of the frames you see in between. You see, I just imported these two frames that you can see, and then it'll show you. It'll fill in the frames between, show the transition. That is what keyframes are. Now, this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can actually achieve this. So first I'm just going to get rid of these keyframes. We can keep the default cube, because this is a very basic tutorial, so I'm just going to delete this, import this. Actually, I'm going to import a cone just to make things more interesting. Okay, there we go. Now, the utter basics of what we're trying to achieve. You could go into much more advanced things. I'm just going to show you a very basic rundown and the technique how you can achieve these things. But before we get into all of that, as you can see, you have all your sliders over here. If you are in any other thing, you have modifiers on this. Let's say subdivision surface on this, made it like that. If you're in the modifiers over here, or any other of these tabs, and you don't want to be in that transform all the time, you could just hit N on your keyboard and you have the transform thing right here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller, keep it out of my way. And now let's just experiment with things. So first thing I will be showing you is location. Location is exactly what it sounds like, wherever, it's wherever this thing is on the x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. Rotation is exactly what it sounds like, how it's rotated on the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis, and same for scale, how it's rotated. So let's say I moved this over here, and then I rotated it like this, and then I scaled it up by this amount. You can see how these sliders all move as so, and that's what we will be messing around with today. So let's say I wanted my cone to be much bigger, like much bigger. I could start at frame 0 or frame 1 or whatever you want. Press I, and you will see this number of things. In this case, I'm talking about scale, but you could do this for anything. So if you're looking to mess with location, rotation, and scale, which I'm not, you could click on this, and it won't affect it anyway. So you can insert this keyframe, and you'll see it appear right here. And these things will change. And then whenever you move this thing, you'll see that the keyframe is not set because, you're not on that frame anymore. And then here we can change it up. So you can use these sliders, or you can just do it in the viewport. Let's say I wanted to rotate this 90 degrees on the x-axis. Looks like that. 10 degrees on this axis. I don't know. Mess around with it. Location, we can just drag this, scale it down, make some weird little shapes, and bam. That's what it looks like. But if we want to save this, we can insert the keyframe for location, rotation, and scale. You can do all of these. You don't really need to worry about these until you get more detailed stuff. I usually just mess with these, but once you go to a second one and you change it up, you can see that there's an available. The available will take all the things that you changed. So in this case, all of these things over here that you've changed. So when I press I could just hit available, or I could hit location, rotation, and scale again. I get available, and then you'll see these all went back. So you can see it's still, this keyframe is still here, but you can see it now. When I move this along the timeline, you can see it start to change. So you can do tons of stuff with this. Like, I'm talking tons of stuff. This is how people animate characters much of the time, unless you use motion capture suits, but a lot of IK rigging, like for machines and animations, will be made with keyframes. And although we don't have a rig right now, it's all the same. People use keyframes. So although I said I'm not going to go into depth on how to do all this, how to do this stuff, you can do this, use these for other things, like texture, for example. Textures are, we'll have a lot of tabs open, so this might take a bit, but textures are exactly what they sound like. Say you imported a color or something, and you need to, change it up mid-thing. You can change it from red to green, say gradually or non-gradually. So you can see these little buttons over here. We can mess around with these. As I said, I'm not going to go in depth, but you can mess around with these, change the color and stuff. But now, for the interesting part, the part where you can change, how the keyframes interact. So as we can see, we were using a smooth transition because we were on a curve-based setup. Now I will show you there are different modes for your interpolation. It's called interpolation because it interpolates how, the animation is being run. And you can change things to make the animation sharper, smoother. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. So I'm going to show you in a sec. So I just loaded into the graph editor by, clicking on this, going from the timeline to the graph editor. And if you click on this, you can visually see our keyframes. You could go into a lot of detail on all the different things you could do with this, but I just wanted to show you the interpolation modes because there are different ways to, set your keyframes. So say you could see these sharp points changing very rapidly. They're very straight, and that's because my default is on linear. Yours is usually set this one. So you can see if I change it to the Bezier, you can curve it out, and you can move these things to change, how smooth it is. And then we can see the animation is just a lot smoother. It runs smoother than as if the lines were sharper. And you can do this in a lot of ways. You can change all these things. These are much more detailed. But look at this. I change it to this, and it bounces around. So I just wanted to show you that. I'm going to keep mine on, you could do constant. This one looks a little weird because it just changes automatically. Boom. But I like mine, this one, and we'll keep it like that. So thank you for watching. That is the basic rundown of keyframes. Very basic tutorial. I might go more in depth on another video, or if you guys request it. But thanks for watching. I will see you guys in another video, and keep improving. So see you guys.